Psychopathy is an antisocial behavior personality disorder that inhalates impulsive decision-making, whereas the prefrontal cortex is responsible for decision-making, personality expression, maintaining social standards, and complex cognitive behaviors. In an article titled The Role of Prefrontal Cortex in Psychopathy, the author Michael Koenigs identifies how dysfunction towards the prefrontal cortex can influence personality disorders to create psychopaths. Additionally, Koenigs also introduces the idea of neuroimaging implicating prefrontal dysfunction and how psychopathy is closely associated with structural and functional abnormalities in the prefrontal cortex of the brain. The findings in this research concluded that there is no true cause of what creates psychopathy, but that it is in fact related to abnormalities within the prefrontal cortex. In another article titled Functional Connectivity Bias in the Prefrontal Cortex of Psychopaths, the authors constitute that psychopathy is, quote, a distinctive interpersonal style that combines callous, unemotional traits with inflexible and antisocial behavior, end quote. This study focused on how to identify abnormal traits and links between emotional and cognitive brain systems in a psychopath's brain. It was discovered that a psychopath's brain and their frontal cortex are oftentimes weaker with emotional and cognitive matters, indicating their lack of emotions, which connects to their abnormal brain functions. Lastly, in an article titled Psychopaths Know Right from Wrong But Don't Care, researchers describe psychopaths as, quote, deficits in emotional processing and inhibitory control, engage in morally inappropriate behaviors, and generally fail to distinguish moral from conventional violations, end quote. These researchers tested whether or not psychopaths have a normal understanding of right and wrong. Their conclusion was that psychopaths understand right from wrong, but have no remorse for either, as well as no emotions towards consequences which justify their inappropriate behavior. I found this topic to be very interesting because society is very quick to use the term psychopath without being knowledgeable of its full definition. Before this research, I was also not clear on what makes a person a psychopath, and I was also lacking the knowledge of what part of the brain controls personality. This research was captivating and interesting to me because it helped redefine what traits a person can carry and what traits a person lacks to be considered a psychopath. Understanding psychopathy and its connection to the prefrontal cortex is relevant to human interaction because it sheds light on the neural basis of empathy, moral reasoning, and social behavior. As stated, dysfunction in the prefrontal cortex in individuals with psychopathy can lead to impaired social interactions, reduced empathy, and increased antisocial behavior. Having this knowledge can inform strategies for identifying, managing, and potentially treat psychopathic traits to improve human interaction. This knowledge presented between psychopathy and the prefrontal cortex impacts our understanding of cognition by highlighting how the brain makes decisions, operates impulse control, and its emotional processing. This connection reveals how deficits in the prefrontal cortex leads to impaired cognitive functions such as moral reasoning and the ability to learn right from wrong. This understanding helps redefine cognitive models and informs interventions aimed at improving cognitive deficits related to psychopathic traits. It's most important to know that psychopaths often exhibit reduced activity and structural abnormalities in their prefrontal cortex, as learned from Michael Koenigs. This is linked to deficits in emotional processing, impulsive control, and moral reasoning. These neurological differences help explain the characteristics, behaviors associated with psychopathy, such as lack of empathy, manipulative tendencies, and antisocial behavior. Reduced activity in the abnormalities in the prefrontal cortex can lead to impaired emotional processing, so difficulty understanding and recognizing and responding to others' emotions, difficulty planning, and reduced ability to understand and adhere to moral standards. Overall, the information and connection between psychopaths and their prefrontal cortex is important because it can improve our ability to identify, manage, and potentially treat psychopathic traits. This knowledge can inform interventions aimed at reducing harm and improving social interactions. This research is relevant to my future career because I'm focused on becoming a criminal psychologist. In this field, understanding how the human brain operates, understanding how criminals think, understanding various personality disorders, and understanding how all of these topics coincide will help my future profession. A criminal psychologist's job is to learn what motivated the offender and diagnose their mental conditions. Using this knowledge of what defines a psychopath and how their prefrontal cortex is different than the average person will help me recognize psychopathy and develop a treatment plan to better help the offender. As far as the impact it will have on my current field of study, which is criminal justice and psychology, studying this topic provided a deeper understanding of how the biological factors that influence criminal behavior enhanced my ability to critically analyze and address complex issues in criminal justice and psychology. It helped prepare me for more informed research that will jumpstart my future career. The class question posed is, did you have a misunderstanding of the term psychopath before this presentation? What did you think a psychopath was before this description?